Alright, so I thought I'd do the quick post Spanish Grand Prix video. I didn't get to do one after qualifying. Weekend just got too busy. Qualifying was pretty interesting. Because of this weekend, they brought a new super hard tire. Usually the tire compounds traditionally had been super soft, soft, medium, and hard. And this weekend, Pirelli for the first time brought a super hard compound. What they wanted to do was create more of a gap so that the harder tire would run longer, so that there'd perhaps be some people who would run the super hard tire in an attempt to do fewer pit stops because it would last longer. What they didn't count on, they knew there was going to be a gap in speed. Obviously that's kind of the trade-off. You have a harder compound, it's less grippy, and so it's going to be slower than the softer compound. What happened was, instead of a 1.5 second per lap difference, it was a 2 second per lap difference. And basically, the hard tire was too slow to outweigh, any benefit of being able to run longer on it. So it was too slow for teams to really run long stints on. So what they ended up doing was most of the four stoppers ended up doing a soft, hard, soft kind of race. They only did one stint on the hard tires, and they used up old super soft because the hard tires are so much slower. Most teams had to use the soft even in Q1 and definitely Q2 in order to continue to qualify well. So tires definitely played a pretty big role in this race. And DRS wasn't instrumental in passing. I think the problem is that each circuit is different. So to say that, 1,000 meters from the turn after the DRS zone, that's the passing zone. I was thinking this weekend, I thought about it before, I think what they might need to do is get a couple of drivers, a couple of cars to go out and run tests to see, okay, so where does the DRS work? And so on to the actual race. So it was pretty interesting to see the start. It was probably the most active start I've ever seen that didn't result in a crash. Weber tried to defend really hard against Vettel, and what happened was Alonso ended up diving to the inside, almost on the grass, and ended up passing both Red Bulls. So the Spanish crowd went nuts when that happened, and he eventually ended up losing the place because of undercuts on pit stops, and Vettel just had a bunch of pace. Jenson Button looked like he had gotten really screwed over on strategy at first, because he was kind of straddling a 3-stopper and a 4-stopper, and he ended up running a 3-stopper and finishing third, so that was really great for him. The story, although Sebastian Vettel ended up winning from second place, the real story, for me at least, was that Lewis Hamilton was on his gearbox for the last 10 or 15 laps. Red Bull had been widely thought to have a car that would just run away and leave everybody, and what happened was Vettel had a bunch more downforce and speed and high-speed corners, but Hamilton had great top speed on the pit straight, and was just able to reel him in, and was, within a second every lap for the last 10 laps, and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And because of the DRS issue, he wasn't really able to pass, but to race for an hour and 40 minutes and end up finishing only less than 7/10 behind the winner was amazing, and that will have given McLaren and Lewis Hamilton a huge shot in the arm. They will be thrilled about that result. They would have wanted to win, but in a track that was supposed to be Red Bull just domination that McLaren was able to get that close and stay that close and finish, less than a second behind will have been huge. So big congrats to McLaren for that. There were some issues. Heikki Kovalainen ended up going off the track, around lap 50. He later took to Twitter and answered a question, and he said it was just driver error. I think he got on the dirty side of the track, lost grip, and ended up running off and into the barrier. But other than that, it was a pretty good race. Michael Schumacher ended up finishing ahead of Nico Rosberg. Put in a pretty solid performance. I mean, it's not a podium, but 6th place after starting 10th was nothing to sneeze at. Nick Heidfeld, of course, had a fire during 3rd practice. His car caught fire, and he ended up not being able to participate in qualifying, but because he had set quick times throughout practice, the stewards went ahead. Under the rules, there are a couple of qualifying rules. One is the 107% rule, and that's that in Q1, when all the cars are out there, if the slowest car or the slower cars take more than 107% of the same time that the fastest car did in Q1, they are disqualified from taking part in the race. The stewards can then let them back in by discretion. If, say, Sebastian Vettel has a gearbox problem, they're going to let him in because he will have set quick times in practice. And there's also a corresponding rule is that if you don't get to take part in qualifying at all, you technically haven't set a time. So you wouldn't be able to participate because you haven't qualified. But the stewards can let you in. That's what happened with Nick Heidfeld. He started from 24th. He clearly had a brand new set, a bunch of new sets of soft tires because he hadn't qualified. And so he was able to work up from 24th up to 8th. So that really shows, it shows the Renault team, although they haven't been moving forward in development, they still have pace. And it also shows how important tire strategy is. So we may start seeing some people who are, mid-pack, maybe not qualifying as high, perhaps to have more tires for the race. I think what Pirelli will do is ditch the super hard. As a fan, I want them to ditch the super hard tire because while that makes qualifying more interesting, I think it makes the race perhaps more boring. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the super hard tires because basically it discourages teams from doing long runs on hard tires. So then the strategy is to just, run a very short stint on hard tires and then run as many on soft tires, whether they're new or used. But it was a great Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. I mean, we moved straight into Monaco. The teams get no rest. They will have packed up their stuff in Barcelona and then flown it to Monaco because the Monaco Grand Prix starts on Thursday instead of Friday. Every race of the year except for Monaco, you have first, have a couple of last year's spec cars with drivers who aren't currently doing anything and see what works because this was the exact opposite of Istanbul. In Istanbul, the DRS zone was too long, passing was too easy, and in here, it probably needed to be, right after that final turn going onto the pit straight. So there's definitely some stuff there to be worked out, for sure.